What's up, losers? Today I'm back with another r/fatlogic extravaganza. Checking out a couple of fascinating fat acceptance posts, responding to them as best I can, and having a few laughs. This is episode 125 in the fatlogic series. And I'm ready to be blown away by some plus-size brain takes. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I did that. People can get cancer and diabetes from counting calories.
Okay, so, in including this post I need to be fair, and acknowledge that it's a tiny conversational snippet, for which we have absolutely no surrounding context. And it's possible that the person who wrote it may have meant something other than what they said, which would have become clear if they had been made to elaborate. Having said all that, what the actual frick is this person talking about? Counting calories gives you cancer and diabetes. Really? Even being as open-minded and generous as I possibly can, it's damn near impossible to imagine a scenario in which such a claim could make any kind of sense. Like, I know lots of people hate math, but it's not going to give you cancer, haha. And neither is running a moderate calorie deficit. Because, why would they? I can't even construct a counterargument to what has been said, because it's just nonsense, of the purest variety. There's no identifiable point at which the logic could have gone awry. Because there can't have been any logic to begin with, and the reality of the situation is in fact directly opposed to what has been said. Because what really increases one's risk of developing cancer or diabetes is obesity, and counting calories is, arguably, the best weight loss strategy we have available to us. So basically, this commenter couldn't be any more wrong if they tried. Which is, I suppose, kind of impressive, in its own way. Sarah, kudos, haha. But anyway, that's enough said about that one. Let's move on.
I wish I could eat whatever I wanted. Well, actually you can. What you really wish is to live in a society that doesn't harshly judge fatness. Most often when people say, I wish I could eat whatever I wanted, what they really mean is, I wish I could eat whatever, so that I don't gain weight. I'm not talking about people who have food allergies. If we dig underneath this statement, we will usually find the subtext. 'Cause I don't want to be judged negatively by others for having gained weight. I was watching an episode of a cooking show, where the chef's specialty was making cookies and pastries. This chef was thin, and she unapologetically ate a lot of sweets. Not only did it show, once again, that body size has a genetic component, but that how we judge people who are fat and eat sweets is so different than how we judge people who are thin and eat the same foods. What would be preferable is if we lose the judgment altogether, because this is the fear that is holding so many people back from eating how they would like. It also can have the side effect of binging on these foods if we restrict ourselves from eating them. As much as I would love it if people just stopped judging others for what they eat and their body size, waiting for that to happen is a fool's errand. A much better way to focus our energy is to stop judging ourselves for what we eat, and more importantly, stop judging ourselves for our body size. If we truly want to eat something and enjoy it, only we can give ourselves permission to do that. Not saying it's easily done, but it's the only real control we have, and a much more empowering approach. For more information and resources on learning to accept your body and a weight-neutral approach to health, download my free Body Acceptance Jumpstart Guide by clicking the link in my bio.
Man, this one was surprisingly frustrating to read through. It's not as in-your-face obnoxious or inflammatory as a lot of fat acceptance content is. But the way it keeps trying to tell you how you feel, and what you really want, and being wrong, each and every time, is super grating. Like, you're not my damn therapist. You have no idea what I want, or how I feel about anything. And your guesses in this regard are clearly nothing more than projection and wishful thinking. So drop the condescending tone, please. It does not become you. While it may be true that people want to eat without putting on weight, it is most assuredly not the case that such people are only worried about the judgment that they might incur for being fat. They are also worried about, health, mobility, independence, stuff like that. Just because fat activists are only concerned with protecting their own egos does not mean that the rest of us don't have other priorities outside of what other people think of us. Like, maybe I'm in the minority here, but even if obesity became the new beauty standard, I still wouldn't want to be fat, because I actually like being able to get around easily, fit into things, and not worry about bringing a truckload of unneeded medical issues down upon myself. It's not all about appearances. And I'm sick of fat activists like this poster, assuming that every thin person is as shallow and misguided as they are. It's untrue, and it's patronizing as all hell. The other major takeaway I have from this post is how utterly lame and unconvincing the apparent evidence it provides is, and how it somehow manages to draw all the wrong conclusions from this evidence regardless. I am referring, of course, to the part where the poster references an unspecified episode of an unnamed cooking show, in which an unnamed, apparently thin, chef, ate, quote, a lot of sweets, yet remained thin, thus demonstrating that weight is determined by genetics. The number of layers we are removed here from anything even remotely evidentially compelling is astounding. Like we're talking about a single example of a person on a selectively presented TV show, of whose life the poster can only have seen a tiny cultivated fragment, and on top of everything, the post does not share with us who the person in question is, or what the show is. So we have no way of verifying anything about the way that they have represented any of this, and are forced to just take their word for it. I mean, for all we know, the show could be entirely made up, and we would have no way of knowing. The fact that the poster thought this was at all worth including is just baffling to me, and it sure doesn't reflect well on the critical thinking skills that they expected others to be so easily persuaded. But what's even funnier than all of this is that even if I accept every word of it is true and fairly represented, it still doesn't suggest what the poster thinks that it does. Because eating treat foods does not necessarily put one into a calories surplus. And we therefore do not require genetics as an explanation for how the chef in question was able to remain thin. In truth, all the chef anecdote really suggests is that one does not have to choose between eating for enjoyment and watching one's weight, and that it is completely possible to enjoy treat foods in moderation. Which, if anything, undermines the whole message of the post. Because if thin people can have nice food too, and healthy moderation is achievable, there is even less reason to indulge in the kind of overeating that leads people to become obese. So basically, the post doesn't hold up at all. It doesn't justify its self-congratulatory tone. And it fails on even the most basic levels of evidentiary provision and interpretation. 3 out of 10 try harder. Moving on.
Bear with me here. This is a bit of a weird connection. I just watched season 1 of Heartstopper, and I couldn't stop crying. I'm not a TV crying person. Especially not a happy TV crying person. But for some reason, I just kept crying at all the sweet parts. Which I also did for Our Flag Means Death. And that got me thinking, why do I a mostly straight, cis woman identify with, and find so much more catharsis in LGBT+ stories? Why do I find queer romances to be the most moving? Am I really cis? Yeah. Seem to be. Really straight? Yeah, for the most part. So what is it? And then it dawned on me. I'm fat. I know that seems a weird stretch. But bear with me. That feeling of being other, especially growing up and in romantic settings, than your peers. Yep, we've both got that. Constantly facing hate and discrimination for a part of you that you have no control over. Yep, got that too. That inability to express your interest in someone, unless you know they're attracted to your type of people, lest they be repulsed by the mere idea of your attraction to them. Got that one as well. Knowing that, just because the other person likes you, it doesn't mean that they'll be willing or ready to endure the bullying that they will face if they actually publicly date you. We've even got that one too. I'm not trying to co-opt LGBT plus struggles or media, or say the two things are remotely the same. We face very different systemic discrimination and oppression. But suddenly it occurred to me how many themes seem to resonate with both. I can only imagine how much those themes are doubly powerful with fat people in the LGBT plus community. So what do you think? Fellow fat people, do you find this to hold true in your experience as well? Or is this just a me thing? Hashtag fat acceptance. Hashtag fat activism. Hashtag fat liberation.
Okay, so, I haven't seen either of the shows that this post is talking about. And I'm only vaguely aware of their subject matter. But I still have a few thoughts to share. So here they are. 1. I don't know why the post said that it wasn't trying to co-opt LGBT media for the fat cause, when that is very clearly, undeniably, exactly what they're doing. Like, that is the whole point of the post. I don't really believe that media that appeals to a certain demographic group should be considered theirs alone to enjoy, as I will elaborate on in a moment. But this post is obviously using the LGBT representation in these shows as a platform to talk about fat politics. And I don't see what's to be gained from pretending that this isn't the case. I mean, it's all right there. We're not stupid, haha. 2. While I can recognize the fear of rejection that this post identifies, and how it might be particularly acute in fat people when compared to their thin peers, I don't think that this should be compared to the fear gay and trans people face when revealing their feelings to people. I mean, fat people might be more likely to get rejected than thin people. And they might sometimes be rejected in cruel and humiliating ways, which we should all condemn. But this is not the same as gay or trans people, who constantly have to worry about being socially ostracized, or even violently retaliated against, just for revealing their sexuality or gender identity to the world. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it sucks being told that your body type is unattractive, and that you are therefore unworthy of someone's affection. But this is not the same as having your mere identity construed as a threat. And I don't think that it's helpful to conflate these two issues, especially when gay and trans people have a hard enough time having their concerns taken seriously by society as is. Oh yeah, and get the frick out of here with that. No control over it. Cheat. You do have control over your weight. You just refuse to exercise it. So this is another reason why the comparison to gay and trans people is inappropriate. And 3, as I briefly alluded to before, I find the whole thrust of this post, and the parallel it attempts to draw between fatness and queerness, a little strange, insofar as the poster seems to feel the need to justify their emotional response to the shows it talks about, in light of their not personally being gay or trans. And this is apparently what led them to bring fatness into the equation. But for me, there's no mystery to be solved in the first place. Like, if a show about gay or trans people is well made, I don't see why straight or cis people wouldn't be able to relate, or feel a strong emotional response to them. Like, sure, there will be aspects that queer people will understand more intimately. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and I don't think that you need to be just like the characters in the media you consume to feel a strong connection to them. If anything, this ability to share experiences outside of our own, and open our eyes to other perspectives, is a big part of what makes art worthwhile. And it's something to be celebrated, not limited or frowned upon. So if the poster was able to relate to these shows because of their experiences as a fat person, then that's a totally valid way of interacting with them. And I'm happy for them. But in general, I don't think that we should feel the need to justify our enjoyment of media, for which we are not the target demographic. Because at the end of the day, we like what we like, right? It's all cool. Sorry if that last response was a bit all over the place, haha. I just had a bunch of random thoughts to share, and I was in a bit of a rush, so I didn't have time to sort through everything in my head. I hope it all made sense. At any rate, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you had a good time reading through these posts with me, and that my commentary enhanced your experience of them in some way. What do you think? Does counting calories give you cancer? Do we all secretly want to live in a utopia where everyone is fat, and no one gets judged for it? Is being fat just like being gay or trans? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll make you count some fat activists' daily calories for a whole week. And by the end of it all, you'll be on death's door. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.